All right.
Hey, welcome, LA Progressive friends and family. Dick and Sharon here of the LA Progressive, sitting down once again with Mario Solis-Marich, who is a frequent contributor to the LA Progressive, a long time political consultant and activist. And in our last conversation, we were talking about your involvement with the Democratic Party. But today, we're in Southern California. We live in Southern California. We operate out of Southern California, as does Mario, and we're just like just can't believe what has happened to our Senator Alex Padilla.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary.
Those questions were never asked, though, as Senator Padilla was forcibly removed from the conference room.
Sir, hands up.
And then handcuffed as he was forced onto the ground by federal agents.
Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, put them behind my back.
All right.
Although cuffed, Padilla was not arrested or detained.
We will hold this administration accountable.
And spoke out shortly after this unprecedented incident.
If this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers.
Mario has accepted. We're all pissed. We've agreed before we started to record that we're not going to use the F word. Welcome, Mario. Let's just.
Thank you.
We don't
So,
have to here.
okay, so let me share something. I've known Alex since he was 23 or 22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
Take your
I
time.
don't think I could do this. The I'm not sure I could do this. I have to say I'm infuriated
Yeah.
to see what I saw today. And the thing about it, the thing to remember is that it was his body that got thrown on the ground, his body that was right. But it was really, your body. If you're listening to this and you're in California, it was your body that was thrown to the ground because he represents you. So they were throwing you to the ground. And when they made him kneel, they were making you kneel. That was his body, but it was you that they want to kneel in front of the would-be king. And when they threw him on his stomach and they handcuffed him, it was you that they were handcuffing. It was his body, but it was you because it was your voice that he was trying to display. It was your voice that he was asking questions that we all have. Now, unfortunately, some of us know the answers, right? But the questions still need to be asked. And he was using his body, his voice to ask that question. And when three goons tackled him, jumped him, and made him kneel and pushed him to the ground and handcuffed him, it was you that they were doing that to.
Yes.
So you should, and so we all should be outraged because that is what we're seeing now is not. Somebody said, well, I heard it was an escalation towards fascism and maybe that's hyperbole. It's not hyperbole. We are there. I'm not sure, at what point do we, accept and admit that we are there? And maybe it's at the point where the first Latino senator for the state of California is thrown to the ground and humiliated. Maybe that's the moment where we wake up and go, wow, this is real, because it's not just the farm workers, right? It's not just the garment workers, right? And suddenly it's like first it was going to be the criminals, and then it was like, oh, the people that are that don't show up to their meetings, and then it's people who do show up to the meetings but they're not quite prepared, or they showed up to too many meetings, and then it's like just random people off the street at Home Depot or at 7-Elevens or at right or wherever they may be. So that and now it's the even political leaders. So that circle in a very short period of time has gone from criminals to everybody that we don't like, everybody who opposes us, everybody who we see as disposable, and most of them apparently, I guess we're supposed to believe coincidentally, are brown. And so this is where we're at today. Now, Alex used his voice, and we use our voice. It's time for our voices to get louder, and it's time for, if you're scared to speak, I get it. But you know what? They can't get all of us. And I mean, and that's the power here, is that if we all speak up, if we all do something, just anything that we can do, then they just can't stop it. I heard that you could stop me at any time, because I've been thinking about this for the last several hours. So, but if you look at the No Kings rally, right, that are happening, protest rallies, whatever they are, gatherings, they're happening all over the country, right? Maybe, if you can't show up, can you blast your friends via email or for your Facebook page or whatever you got going on, and get other people there, or maybe babysit somebody's kids who wants to go, but they don't want to take their kids, and maybe you could help, or carpool, or there's something that we could all do, right? We don't all have to know how to do whatever talent God gave us is the talent that we need to put to use right now.
So the message that Senator Padilla and others made afterwards was, okay, here's what they do to a United States senator who clearly identified himself. Well, imagine what he does, as you say, to the farm worker or the day laborer in Home Depot's parking lot. In fact, we know that there's been some immigrants who are deported within 2 or 3 days of being picked up off the streets of Los Angeles. So I mean, yes, we do need to fight this, but can you imagine if you had an undocumented person in your family, or if you were undocumented? We're already hearing about people that we know in our circle that aren't showing up to work.
Right.
And how's that going to work? Who's going to pick those strawberries, and who's going to work in those restaurants?
It's funny that you should bring that up, because I don't know if you heard this today, but the farmers are complaining, right? And apparently Trump is starting to back off on deporting the farm workers. And believe it or not, there's a danger in this, right? Because now what he's demonstrated, what he's demonstrated is how far he's willing to go. And then he's going to pick off a group that says, okay, because my rich agriculture donors, are basically going to lose their businesses, because we all know who really picks the fruit in this country, right? I'm going to go ahead and save them. But these people are going back to work under extreme fear.
Right.
Right. They are so vulnerable to be exploited and to be taken advantage of, right? Because of the environment that they're in. Nobody that goes back to work under those conditions is going to be willing to speak up, to get paid on time, to get paid at all. And we have to be extremely careful that this Trojan horse that Trump has created to usher in really a second, third, fourth class, working class of people. That's what's happened. This is there's a history of this in this country. And it's kind of we had the Bracero program, right? And then when there was unemployment, that's when Eisenhower did a mass deportation. This is kind of it in reverse, right? But we tell them, and we tell everybody, look at, these are the people who pick the fruit. And these are the people that make the hotel industry work. So those are the two industries. But let's be real. In California and in many other states in the country, it's also the construction industry, right? It's also a lot of other. There are a lot of workers here.
Right.
And that's why we've always said we have to do comprehensive immigration reform, because we need the workers. And by the way, we all know, we're boomers, right? We need younger people in this country, to keep this great engine of our state moving, to create, to continue to build and work in this country. And so this is really a stupid time, just stupid. It just, it's cruel and it's unconstitutional. But if you don't believe that, just trust me and do the math. It's stupid when our population is older than ever to be kicking out workers that are willing to do jobs that others don't want to do. And I think that they always said, well, that's the rhetoric, if you kick them out, other people will step forward or the prices will go up or whatever, right? It's that whole idea is now, we're now watching it. And what even Trump has come to the conclusion of is that that it just can't work economically. You can't just kick all these workers out. Now let's see what he does. Let's see, we all know he'll say stuff like this and then not do it. But let's also be aware that if he does do it, if anybody who's a farm worker could afford not to work, there should be a strike. Because they clearly, for once, for the first time in decades, the government has seen your value, right? If you're a maid in a hotel and they say, okay, we'll let you go back to work, just think about that. Think about the power you have that they've had to stop a fascist state because now they finally recognize your value to the economy and demand the wage and demand the protections. Because now, honestly, if you think about it, it feels like they're in the driver's seat, but apparently not.
So, Mario, there's a grain of good news in what you said, that Trump may be backing off because the big farmers who rely on undocumented workers to pick their fruits. So if we can put enough pressure on Trump, I think there's a new acronym for him, TACO.
Trump
always chickens out. So, if he gets enough pressure, if we put enough pressure on not just a few industries, but many industries, maybe we can back him off.
So
go ahead.
If I may, I'd like to bring up another point. So there is a reason that Alex Padilla and Ross Baraka and Congresswoman LaMonica McIver and SAIU, David Huerta, who is just getting out of the hospital from interaction with law enforcement people. There's a reason. There's something real similar about all of these people. Ross
right.
they all
what do these people have in common, right?
Melanin. There's melanin in this game.
Right.
And so what that tells me, some people have said, well, they're low-hanging fruit. Well, what the hell does that mean, they're low-hanging fruit? Does that mean that the rest of the country thinks, well, it's okay to do that to those people? So you see, and I think that the message, we know that there are always going to be Trump-like people in this country. But we need to address the rest of the country that has set the stage that says this is low-hanging fruit.
Right. I absolutely agree. And I think that this is, getting back, combining your point and Dick's point, I think that this is a moment. And I think that we're, and I know it's hard for people right now, but this is obviously a perfect moment to call for a general strike. We need a general strike. They created their own general strike by kicking out these workers, and now they're suffering for it. By the way, that means you and I will suffer for it. For all we know, tomorrow we'll go, for like $20 tomatoes or something.
That's
but
right.
So everybody's paying for it. But the fact of the matter is they've recognized the value in these workers for the first time ever. So we and workers and maybe other industries will glob onto this, but the fact is that this is the moment to stick to our guns as much as we can, right? Because people depend on those paychecks, or to organize around those workers and support them because their value is finally being recognized, and they could end this madness. They have the power to end this madness.
So another hopeful sign is, since the November election, the Democrats or progressives have been very much on their heels and kind of lost in the woods. But in the last few days, Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom and Tim Walz and a few other Democrats have delivered really powerful indictments of Trump, calling a spade, saying what he is, saying that they're lies, not quibbling on the corners. And that's in combination with the people in the street who have less power except in numbers. And maybe a movement is coming to blunt what Trump wants to do. And then there's the issue of coming together of what we want to do.
Right. And I think that it's crisis meets opportunity, or crisis is opportunity, whatever the saying is, right? We're at that moment right now. This is clearly a crisis where things are falling apart. We are in the process, not we may, we're in the process of losing the Constitution. We could reverse it,
Right.
but we should not be naive to believe that that's not what's going on right now. Right. The course we're on right now is one that is tearing up the Constitution of the United States. So we have the ability to turn it around, and maybe in essence, reform, our own movements and bring them together. I want to bring you back, back again to Alex for a second.
Sure.
Alex, even when he was like very young, right? When Lee and I were talking earlier, and when we first met him, he came to the house for dinner, and he, is this tall, lanky, kid that everybody was saying was this wonder, people don't know this, but he was, a very, very successful student at MIT, and was, could have had a whole different life. Right. Could have done extremely well, and turned to service, for the community. But back then, one thing that was very noticeable about him for everybody, and still is his quality of being this gentle giant.
Yes.
Right. Very, very few people understand it. In the last election, Alex got more votes than Gavin Newsom. Right. More people, they both won, but Alex actually got more votes. And he got more votes because when you meet him and you understand his sincerity, right? And it just comes through, and he is always trying to do the right thing. So what we witness today is also a breach, because people on both sides of the aisle have recognized who this person is. And right now, the silence from the Republican quote unquote colleagues, right, in the Senate is deafening. And this is very, very telling, because it instructs us, it should instruct us all. It should instruct us to the fact that where are these moderates that we hear about on the Republican side of the aisle? Where is the Senate congeniality? Where is the gentleman from California? Where, you're right, all of that stuff has disappeared when it comes right down to it. I mean, maybe you could be congenial if you're debating, what to name a park or a post office, right? But when it comes down to the Constitution, right, nobody from the Republican Party is standing up for the gentleman from California. And that to me is one of the things that we really need to take home. We need to take that home right now. We have the Republicans in Congress that represent California don't represent California. And there's a ton of examples of this. But they represent the Republican Party in California. And there's a difference. They are constantly voting and moving against things that benefit the state and gumming up the works, and right, and doing all kinds of shenanigans, right? And people say, well, it's a different point of view. Okay, it's a different perspective. Okay, right. But now at this point where you have Marines headed into LA, right? They've commandeered the guard, and for these folks to be silent when the state, because they swore a constitution of the United States of America, and they also, right, are sworn to our state. Where are they? Where are these people? Right? They don't represent. And if you live in Irvine, if you live out there in Orange County, if you live in the Central Valley, right, your representative is Republican, they're not representing you. They're representing the Republican. They're not even representing the Republican Party anymore. They're representing Trump.
Right. They represent moneyed interests.
Right. And they're not about this state at all. There's nothing. They haven't stood up. They had a chance. They had so many opportunities to demonstrate that this last few weeks, this last few months, these last few years, really. But but they don't represent their constituents. They don't represent their state. And once again, we could, it's a scary time, but it's also a clarifying moment. And the facade has fallen apart when those Coast Guard members, right, who are sworn to our state, were commandeered, and nobody, all these folks were silent. I want to get a little, off the beaten path here, but this is something I've been thinking on for a couple years now, and it's so obvious right now. Where's the Federalist Society?
Well,
right?
I've read the Federalist Society is moving away from Trump. They feel he's gone too extreme, and Trump is returning the favor as always. He's not going to use them to select judges for him anymore.
Yeah, but I mean,
I will say some Republicans have stepped up. The partisan hack Mike Johnson has said that Padilla ought to be censured for his behavior.
Right.
That's the only thing the Republicans have to say.
But this is a moment when, we look at this extreme behavior. It didn't get like this just during the Trump administration.
Right.
It took time for us to get to a place where we have the federalization of the National Guard and Marines coming in for no reason. It took time to get to this place. And in some ways, maybe it's what we need to wake up. I just came from I did a presentation on Know Your Rights. And I think we need to just tell people there are places that they can go. If they are feeling fearful of people, regardless of your immigration status, you have rights in this country still. And your rights are not tied to your nation of origin or whether you're documented or undocumented. You are still protected when you step foot on these grounds. You're protected under civil liberties and civil rights. You have the freedom of speaking. You have the freedom to not speak. And so I'm just saying all of this to say this nation, we call it a democracy, but even the citizenry doesn't behave like it's a democracy. We behave like these people who are in positions of leadership we're subordinate to them, like we're their subjects.
Right. I agree with you.
And we need to change that.
No, we absolutely need to change that. And it is a problem. And the problem, is varies in degree depending on what state you're at, right? But we definitely have a problem. We need to reverse, put it back in proper order. And the proper order is that we're the people in charge, right? But in order to do that, we also have to take charge, right? So when this clearly, once again, is such a clarifying moment, and I'm really it just pained me to see what happened today, and it pains me to see it because I know Alex is a tough guy. He's gentle and he's all of that, but honestly, I've seen him in some tough situations when on the campaign trail and stuff. He's a tough guy, right? So I have no concern about that. But I do worry about the image it sends to our young people who were yesterday considering service, but maybe not so much today, or what the signal it's supposed to send us. And I'll tell you, I hated today. It was painful today, but I am more resolute this evening than I was this morning.
Thank you, Mario. I'm so grateful that you spoke out, especially you have this long-term relationship with Senator Alex Padilla. Dick and I, as the publishers and editors of the LA Progressive, we have never had anything but respect for him. We have met him. We don't know him like you know him, but we do know and have seen that gentle giant aspect of him. And this is just an outrage. So I would suggest that people, if you have any organization, if that they want to link to, or you can just send me. We'll write an article and we'll put some links in down at the bottom.
That'll be great. Both, and you two are such a gift. Once again, I always have to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. I'm glad your spirits are a little bit better. We can tell already in 20
That's right. It was good.
Okay.
This is
Good talking to you,
infuriating.
Mario.
That's good. Good talking to you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for sticking around. If you like the LA Progressive content and the discussions we have here, please consider clicking the subscribe button below and also give us a thumbs up. That helps to grow our audience by feeding the algorithm, which helps to get this content in front of more eyes. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate your support.